All right, what is up, everybody? Shout Scout 0013 here, coming in with an interview with Kentucky Dan. It was an amazing interview, and I hope you guys really enjoyed it. At first, right now, I just want to kind of give you guys the chance to get entered in to win the giveaway of a Veers expansion pack, so that if you've got any Empire or you've gotten into Blizzard Force and you don't have Veers, this could be a great way to enter in to win. If you don't have Empire or anything like that, what we did last time was with the last winner, he didn't have Rebels, and so I kept the Rebel expansion for a later giveaway and got him an E-Web. So yeah, if you are just wanting to enter in to win, at least head on over to the Discord. There you can find a bunch of stuff for you. Like if you've got ideas for lists or you need help with lists, this is a great way to ask questions and or get input from everybody. If you are a commissioned painter, if you want to do anything in here, by all means feel free. There's a Star Wars D&D if you wanted to do that. But yeah, and what I do is I go to the server level and I get the names of people who are entered in to win starting when the giveaway enters. So that way you are entered in to win that way. Another way to enter in is to be a YouTube subscriber and leave a comment. That also gets you in to enter, or gets you in to win. And the last and third way is to be a member of the Patreon. You don't necessarily have to be a paying member to get entered in to win, but paying members do get extra giveaway points in case you are interested. So this is a great way to help the channel out, help me to be able to do more for you guys, and also with the giveaways. So yeah, that's your 3 ways to enter in to win. And lastly, if you want, head on over to theburnacademy.com and subscribe for $15 a month, or basically 50 cents a day, to get 3, 4, 5, and 6-day week workout programs, corrective exercise programs, 30-minute torture programs, at-home stuff, abs and core stuff, cardio circuits, any future programs. There's lots of ways to be able to record your progress, coaching videos, 120 different recipes. If you're interested in just kind of seeing the weight loss that people have had, and over the course of just a few weeks even to years, then feel free to check it out and message me or just subscribe away. If you do have questions, you can feel free to talk to me there. But yeah, guys, all right, let's go ahead and get to the recording. All right, what is up, everybody? Shout Scout 0013 here, coming in with Kentucky Dan from Crit to Block.
Hey guys, Shadow Scout wanted to have me on so we could talk about clone commandos. I just dropped an article on how to beat them, and I've got some opinions about commandos. So
yeah, I'm excited to hear exactly everything that you wrote down, and I've got the article, like I said, pulled up, and the list you brought to Rocky Top. I wanted you to kind of talk about commandos, what you think about them, how you liked to use them, the ins and out of what we were kind of talking about earlier, and any advice you have. And if you would like to go over your list and kind of how you used your list, that would be awesome, because I tried a Padme one, and for me it worked, but that was only one game. So, you've played a lot more than I have with that list, so I'd like to kind of get your input on it. So if wherever you would like to start, I am very interested and intrigued to hear what your thoughts are.
yeah, so I'll kind of just explain how I landed on my Rocky Top list, and that'll kind of allow me to divulge into some of my opinions anyways. So like many people, I thought that Padme and Commandos were just going to be the bomb diggity. And, to be fair, they have some strong objective play. You've got nearly an auto win on recover the supplies. You infiltrate a commando right beside it, play Padme's 2-pip, you move that commando into base contact, they start the round, they claim it, they run away, infiltrating for breakthrough. They've got all kinds of neat little tricks you can do together, but, the more time I spent playing Padme, the more time I realized I never want her to activate, or I guess I want her tokens to start at the beginning of the round, and then I don't want to deal with them again. But you never want Padme to go first because you're always needing to shoot something before it hurts you back. So I ended up kind of, I spoke with Richard about it a bit. Richard Lavery, my teammate at Crit to Block, and I ended up thinking, I'm just not satisfied with Padme. And he told me, you just need to get over it and leave Padme at home. And he was right, because don't get me wrong, she's got some great objective play, but nobody's ever going to let you play and recover the supplies. Um, and, everything else, other players have plans for. Um, so that's my first opinion. Is I don't think Padme is actually all that good with Clone Commandos. In fact, I'm not entirely sold on any of the heroes aside from maybe Rex and Cody right now. I just think a lot of the Jedi's are just too expensive. Clone Commandos aren't cheap, and man, it just really messes up your order pool a bit when you need those Jedi to do strangely defensive things, but you need your Clone Commandos to just sit in a ball, and you end up just with this really, really static list.
Yeah, and like a quick little, maybe little tangent, but if you did include recover the supplies, if you feel like they're going to auto, you know, uh, ban it, then doesn't that help with the other objectives that you'd be good at, and maybe you would want to bring recover the supplies? Because I saw that your list had breakthrough instead of recover the supplies.
Correct. Yeah. And my list doesn't have Padme, so that's why I don't have recover supplies. But that's
Okay.
kind of what I was saying there. Like, yeah, that's an auto ban. Don't get me wrong. Auto bans are good for your list. Like, you know, that's helpful. It puts you into the other objectives. But the problem was, it's not like Padme made me win the other objectives that much better. Um, I just found that, if I took her 90 points and I put them elsewhere, I was getting more value, especially if, in my case, I just took those points and I bought most of what you get in an ARC Trooper full team with Echo. That's kind of where I diverged the points into. Um, and you know, it's a lot more beef and a lot more damage potential than the exemplar aims and dodges she was giving me.
Yeah. Well, I want to kind of look over your list real quick, especially since we're talking about it. I see you've got Captain Rex with aggressive tactics and recon, the clone commander with recon, a phase one with fives and a clone medic. You've got a phase one with an RPS and Boyle, and you've got a phase two with the phase two mortar trooper and a clone medic. Just right there, my first question is why not put Boyle on the phase twos?
So that's not a totally bad question. But shout out to my comprehensive article on building phase two troopers. I think that a lot of people put Boyle in a phase two unit because they get that free surge token. Um, but with aggressive tactics, I've got plenty of surge tokens, especially with that clone commander in there. Most of the time he's activating and then he's doing bolster and either a dodge or an aim, or if I'm a little out of position, he takes a move action. So I didn't really need it on the phase twos for the surge token, and I'm kind of against it as well because you really want to. It's very alluring to have the protector upgrade in that training slot. But the problem is by the time you get that protector in there, suddenly that's like your most expensive unit. And rather than pulling wounds from expensive units over to Boyle and his squad, that way you can, take less expensive losses. Now you're almost taking more expensive losses, especially if you're comparing it to your Clone Commando squads. They're coming in at 85. And believe it or not, Boyle in a phase one is with a rocket launcher is already 3 points more than that at 88. So to make him a phase two, I don't know. It gets too expensive. I struggle to see the value there without protector, and by the time you put protector there, it's so expensive.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I mean you're losing a very expensive unit to hits that they aren't even taking, and that can be an issue. Now then with fives, we know that the clone commander has direct, and you can give it to a core commander. You're probably giving it to fives more than likely. Who's fives giving the relay to or the coordinate to?
So I'd probably say 4 out of 6 rounds it's going to boil. You kind of have a core to your army. No, sorry, not core as in the rank, but the core as in the center. And the center of the army is the clone commander standing next to fives and Boyle. And Boyle's, he's deployed all spread out, with his not displacement. Suddenly I can't cohesion everywhere, and he's kind of doing that guardian, and so it's bouncing from fives and it's going right to Boyle. That way both of them have face-up orders, and they're going to get aggressive tactics surges, and then they're also close to that clone commander, and he can give them more for bolster, because you're guardianing as often as you can, so your own surges a lot. But the really nice thing about fives is, unlike the clone commanders direct, fives coordinate is any clone trooper. So there's also a lot of times where I will either give it to a clone commando that doesn't have their HQ uplink active. Maybe they needed to move, or maybe they needed to aim for the take that clankers round. I'll give it to them, or sometimes I'll also give it to Echo in his full arc team. That way you get an extra surge token there. That way they can just throw their whole bucket of dice.
Okay, and then you've got 2 clone commanders with the armor and the configs, along with HQ uplinks, which I think we would see majority of the time. And then you have a full ARC Trooper team with Echo and prepared supplies, and then a strike team with the DC-15. I'm sure that there's a reason why you have Echo on the ARC Trooper and not the strike team, but can you explain why you'd put Echo on the ARC Trooper team and not the strike team?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I think he's excellent in a strike team, but in this list, the ARC Troopers are kind of my hammer. A bit of the idea of the list is I can give out a lot of face-up orders to fives, RPS with Boyle, and the phase 2s, and then I've got 2 units of clone commandos and Echo, all of which have lethal, and they're going to start fire support shots. They're going to take aims, they're going to shoot, and, like I was talking about with giving them face-up orders so they can get that aggressive tactics, they're going to have a lot of surges from the clone ball that they can share, and they're going to have extra aims that they can spend on Pierce, and Echo, when he's backed up by a full squad, just starts with a lot more dice. And he's just phenomenal, honestly. It also protects the points of the ARC Troopers a bit. I know he's super expensive, but he brings another wound with him. And he kind of helps them from being one shot. It's hard to find, especially when they have prepared supplies on there. You essentially have 6 health in that squad. That's hard for, hold on, maybe it's actually 7 health. Yeah, you have 7 health in that squad, and that's hard for people to take all in one shot. Whereas if you had a regular ARC Trooper in there, you could pick them up in one shot. And I'm just trying to avoid variance, if you will. Yeah, and you see people, they target strike teams all the time. There's a lot of those bombard cards, infinite range, and they'll just go for your strike team because it's a good idea. Just pick up an activation,
Yeah, no, definitely. And so your objectives: breakthrough, hostage, intercept, and sabotage. Why did you choose those?
Well, I really wanted to bring payload, but it's my favorite objective. Payload is, but I couldn't bring it just because you get shafted. Sometimes I didn't want to bring recover because there's a lot of other commandos out there that are trying to do the Padme thing, or there's Jedi. I didn't want to do bombing run, and what's the other objective I'm forgetting?
Key positions?
Key positions. I just didn't want to play those. So everybody wants to do key positions. I'm so bored of it that I left it at home and brought sabotage instead. I mean, I have recon intel on my clone commander just so I don't have a bid. Um, so breakthrough honestly just kind of turns into a kill game. Intercept usually just turns into a kill game. People don't want to play sabotage usually because I have no bid, and they don't want to play hostage either because Rex is just going to pull that hostage back home at the beginning of the game. So I played intercept and key positions for every game of Rocky Top. So
Nice. That's
none of
awesome.
them are easy on my opponents. So
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. Well, I'll look. I mean, I know we have hemmed in advanced, major offensive, and a rollout, and I'm sure. I mean, that's just kind of like. I'll just ask then, why not long march?
um, so I mean, part of the idea here with the list is that you're doing scouting shenanigans. Everybody in the list can scout or infiltrate. The clone commandos can infiltrate. Arc troopers all have scout. Boyle brings a little bit of a scout. Clone commander has scout just because. And so usually the scouting party is either going to both of the phase one squads, or if I can set it up right, I am scouting party a unit of clone commandos up into range three. So that way round one, we're playing the grenade launcher, take that clankers at range three. So long march, it's good for clones because it really allows them to keep their little clone ball going. But I wanted to be a little bit closer, especially for fire supports. Take that clankers. Everybody can shoot at range four, but range four is like round two sometimes on long march.
Okay, yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. And so let's see, who would be your hostage unit?
Uh, Probably the phase twos. I don't want fives outside of my clone ball. I don't want Boyle outside my clone ball. And awkwardly enough, it just turns into the phase twos. Um, they're probably just going to run back. I say probably, I never got to play it. Um, they're probably just going to run back to the clone ball and sit there and fire support with their mortar. And it's disappointing, but, you're in a winning position probably to begin the game. So
Okay, yeah. Well, cool. That I mean, I feel like it's a wonderful list with clone commandos. And so you've obviously said that you don't think they fit well with high costed heroes. And so what I mean, do you want to kind of talk about your comprehensive guide to beating them, like your little article, and kind of explain maybe a few of the key points that you definitely wanted to get out, and maybe if there's anything else that you left out of the article that you'd want to hit on, that would be awesome.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't a guide on how to play or how to list build clone commandos. It's more on how to beat them. And I think part of what I've built into my Rocky Top list is I only took two clone commandos because they were extremely static. Um, don't get me wrong, like they can move and shoot, but then next round they can't do it again. And that's really the key to beating them. And the reason I only brought two is that I played a lot of games with three before I settled on two. And I would get to this end game position where suddenly I can't move and shoot easily, or I just don't have any meaningful shots with the clone commandos because I've been sitting at range four all game. And sure, my opponent might not have much left, but now I need to be in the middle. And I've lost so much else. I've got some pretty beefy core in this list, and I can do that because I didn't waste as much points on clone commandos. Um, so I think if your opponent has three clone commandos, yes, it's annoying, but it just makes them more static than they've ever been. Um, and I think actually that triple clone commandos is a bit of a trap. I think if your opponent knows what they're doing, they're just going to let you sit there and waste your time. And they're going to wait till the end game when suddenly you're out of position or your guns are down and you don't pose much of a threat unless you're within range two.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I know that with a lot of people don't want to bring Delta Squad because they are a little bit more expensive, but I feel like they're way more maneuverable. Is there, you know, would you take Delta Squad to a very competitive tournament, or would you leave them behind, and why?
Well, I mean, my round five opponent, JJ Wood, he was running Delta Squad. And, when I saw his list day one, like round two or something, I was like, man, he's bringing Delta Squad. What a flex. That's funny. And then I played him round five and we were both undefeated. And it was like, okay, well, it's not funny anymore. He knows something I don't. Um, and, he had Yoda in there to make it work, which I think is probably the only way you can make Delta Squad work. And I understand that as I say this all, I'm like proving my own points wrong by saying don't take three and don't take him with Jedi. But I think Delta Squad is a unique outlier in that Yoda gives them the opportunity to shoot twice around, and he can recycle his card, and he can do that twice a game. So instead of them being a unit that takes 6 shots a game, now they're a unit that takes 8 shots a game. And as JJ and I talked, I mean, we both agreed you can't take Delta Squad and keep them at range 4 and get your value out of them. They do, they got to be at range 2. And when they're at range 2, it's 8 dice over and over again because, they got a better range 2 profile. So I think, like you said, Delta fixes a lot of the static issues. They just do it in a very expensive way.
Yeah, that's the only issue. Is like I know that we were talking earlier that for 15 extra points, you do get that free recover, which means that you can possibly either at least move and shoot, not have to worry about getting the shield back or anything else like that. And then you've got the independent recover, and you get an extra aim. And that's all for 15 extra points. And I don't know if it's necessarily worth it. I mean, they do become a higher priority target from your opponent, but I do like the mobility aspect of it. And yeah, I feel like that's really about it.
I think the one last thing I have against them, which is a weird thing to have against them, is that infinite courage. Um, there's a lot of times, the way they want to play is they want to do that last first, where they pop out, they shoot that shot, and then they're going to start the next round by shooting and moving back. Well, if you have infinite courage, you aren't going to get any light cover from suppression. And depending on your map, or depending really on just the shots you need to get, you may have to leave yourself in the open for your opponent to take 1, maybe 2 shots at the end of the round. Because, if you're playing Yoda and you're playing Delta Squad, you're probably only coming in at 8 activations. And most lists can get above that. And if you lose your priority roll off on a 1-pip next round, or even anything else, and your opponent gets to move first, they've got another shot at Delta Squad. And if you have infinite courage, you don't get any suppression whatsoever, so you don't even get light cover. And if they get to shoot more than once, and you don't have that shield for that second shot, I would rather have them just be, courage 4 even, or be like Yoda and have courage 3. Courage infinite. I understand you can do some cool stuff with Overwatch, but I don't know. I'd rather have a printed courage value.
Yeah, no, I like the fact that at least with Yoda, if you did give them, have them do a standby, and there is someone trying to charge at you, whether they try to shoot them first, that standby is not going anywhere. It is susceptible, obviously, to force push, but I do kind of like at least that aspect of it. And yeah, I feel like they probably work the best with Yoda than anyone else, but that it's just the way from what I've played and what I've kind of seen. But I guess it just depends on whoever's wanting to play them. Do you? I think we've talked a little bit about the objectives and what we think that they're probably better at. Unless you have anything else to add to the objective play, or I know that you had a few other topics that you wanted to kind of talk about with them, or about clone commandos that you didn't quite include in your article. If you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, I think this is kind of just a random clone Commando tip. I think your objectives, sorry, not your objectives, your complete the mission tokens, I think they're better spent on offense than they are on defense. Um, when a clone commando squad fires, they're rolling anywhere from 4 to 8 dice. Every one of those dice is going to have a surge result on it. You don't want to be shot at. And your defense dice only have a 1 in 6 chance of rolling. And you're not wanting to roll many of them. I think those tokens are better spent on offense than they are on defense. I don't know about you, but when I have surging red saves, I never find surges. I just find blanks. Um, and, part of, again, what I had in my Rocky Top list was surges out the wazoo. And if you've got surges everywhere, you don't need that token for defense. Now, I think if you're playing with Delta Squad, it's probably safe to use one of those tokens for defense. But if you're playing Delta Squad, you're not shooting at range 4. You're shooting at range 2. And so you're not really using that token just for defense. You're probably using it for offense. You're probably just charging, to be honest. So I think complete the mission tokens should be used for offense, not for defense. I just never find surges on defense, and you're going to be rolling a lot of offensive dice.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you change the placement up of the complete the mission tokens if there was a more melee skewed list? Like if you know someone's charging into you, did you want to kind of put them towards you a little bit more, or did you still keep them more offensively?
I would say if I saw a Jedi across the table, I may put it I may put the edge of it just touching my opponent's gun line and then it closer to me rather than just putting it in the middle of my opponent's gun line. That being said, I typically put my commandos down second to last. The last thing going down would be Rex with his scouting party. So you've kind of got a general idea where your opponent's Jedi is going to go at that point. Unless they're playing an Inquisitor or maybe Asajj or Maul, most Jedi are defensively based these days. Everybody's running barrier, so you can kind of safely know where it's going to go. And for that reason, I sort of would adjust it a bit, but I'd mainly just use it for offense. And I'm just going to generate so many defensive surges that I didn't worry about it.
Yeah, I didn't think about the fact that, with aggressive tactics and the clone commander handing out so many different surges and even the phase twos that you'd have a whole bunch to choose from while you're nearby. So it's better to actually have a more offensive complete the mission token. Did you ever
Yeah,
place
list
them?
generates 5 surges every round, or six because Echo's reliable as well. So you didn't need them.
Yeah, I mean that actually just makes it even better. So you don't have to waste your complete the mission tokens defensively. So I guess you mentioned that you put them in the middle of their gun line or maybe slightly forward. You didn't put them on like near the objectives at all. You didn't really worry about that.
Um, if the objective was near their gun line, sure, but I was mainly just focused on shooting the targets I could. And again, part of the idea of the list is I'm going to scouting party forward. I'm going to take that clankers round 1, and I'm going to destroy some stuff. And then the remainders are going to come at me. If my complete the mission tokens are sitting where your gun line is sitting, that's bad news for you. If you want to leave that and come closer to me, that's fine. I've got a lot of range 3 guns that I would love to use. So I don't know. It's honestly it's a little too situational to say where exactly you should be putting them because every map is different. But I feel like when it comes to using them offensively, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes a lot of sense, and I know that each uh, map is completely dependent on the place and what's going on. But yeah, that's fantastic. Did you really have anything else to add to the clone commandos, or anything else to kind of mention? Maybe if they're I know that you say that they'd probably go the best with Rex and outside of high heroes, but if there was a hero or anything like that, which ones would you highly recommend?
aside from Rex and Cody, oh, I don't know. I think maybe an aggressive Jedi. So I'm maybe Anakin. I think I maybe need to caveat this by saying most players are taking triple Commandos and a Jedi. And I think the downfall of that list type is by the time you've taken 3 Commandos plus a Jedi plus your core attacks of 3 phase 1s, basically got no points left over. And you're probably taking a medic or 2 just because you want to keep things alive. And so a lot of these triple commando Jedi lists don't have teeth. And they kind of end up sitting there playing a lot of defensive games, with Barrier and Guardian and Exemplar and Yoda shenanigans. But if you kill their core, man, they don't have anything to work with after that. They don't have a lot to speak of when it comes to moving and shooting. And it's all on the shoulders of that Jedi to get in there and do work. And I played Jedi triple commando lists for 4 out of my 5 Rocky Top games. And every one of those games, the Jedi had to charge and make it work. And when you've got 6-man core units, they're not going to go down in a single shot. And then you just play, call me captain, and you just shoot that Jedi in melee. And I think the problem with those lists is they need their Jedi to do more than they sometimes do, because they don't have the offensive teeth in the shooting game.
Yeah, and I remember when I kind of first messaged you to ask you about this, if you were worried about not having a Jedi yourself, and or how you kind of handled other lists with Jedi coming straight at you, because obviously, I mean, Captain Rex is not impervious or anything. You've got clone commandos that can go down almost in a single swoop by a Jedi or anything like that. I didn't know what your strategy was against kind of those heavier melee skewed lists, and if you kind of played them back a little bit, or if you decided to kind of back up and shoot, or what were you thinking when you had to go up against those lists that wanted to charge you?
I think the maybe there's 3 tools that this list has against melee. The first is that you have take that clankers, which just means I can throw a lot of dice at range 4. And if your melee list isn't hidden well, it's going to take a lot of models off. The second is the standby action on clone commandos. If you just recover and stand by, you've got 8 dice at range 2, and most melee lists can't shoot at range 3 and also go and punch. Wookiees shoot at range 2, Ewok slingers are at range 2, Magna Guards are at range 2, Imperial War Guard are range 2. So if you move into range 2 to try and strip that standby, I'll just shoot you first. So if you position a standby behind a building that's in front of your army, that way your opponent has to run past that unit or run into that unit. You can get that standby off. And the last thing, the biggest thing, is Rex's 1-pip. Call me captain. 3 red dice is almost always 3 hits. And if you've got surges floating everywhere in your army, and you've got 6-man core units, you've got a lot of melee dice. And you throw an extra 3 red on there. I had 2 of my games, the last activation of the game was, one of them was the strike team punching Cad Bane to death, being supported. And then the other game ended when Echo and 2 of his boys ran in to punch Yoda, and they were fire supported by Rex. And, that's 7 dice. You can't block all that in melee. So Rex is absolutely the MVP of the list.
Yeah, I know Pally would love to hear that. I know that he's always excited anytime there's a Rex list.
Yeah, I listened to your interview with him, and I think we're both on the same note when it comes to Rex. You don't mind losing Rex round 4, round 5. You just throw him up there, you play that 1-pip, you throw a lot of damage into your opponent, and sure, you kill Rex this round. And what do you have left? You've got nothing left, because I traded Rex maybe in my list he's 112 points. I picked up maybe 2 core from you, and he's a trade. It hurts to lose aggressive tactics, but you usually used all your command cards by that point, and Rex he trades up.
Yeah, and I think there's one other thing about take that clankers. So I know that the clone commander is going to direct a 5, so you have an order on 5s. You're giving it to Boyle, so you've got 2 core, and then you've got HQ uplink on both clone commanders that you're probably using. So you've already got 4 orders out that you don't even have to give from take that clankers. So now you have 2 more units to give that to. And so I'm assuming you gave one to the ARC troopers because that range 2 to range 3. And then did you give the other one to the other cores so that you had every core possible to either fire support or, the phase 1s with 5s to take that aim and shoot 8 dice at range 4? What were the main units that usually got those orders or had face-up order tokens?
Yeah, you read that right. I'm almost never giving it to I never gave it to the strike team, I'll say that. The strike team does not want to extend their guns to range 4. Because if I can shoot at range 4, my opponent can shoot at range 4, and that's only a 2 model, 2 wound unit. They're just gonna pick them up. You know how it is shooting at strike teams. It's cash money to take them off the table. So the phase 2s were getting it, 5s was getting it. Everybody but the commanders and the strike team had it. And that being said, opponents did do a lot of good counterplay to stop me from getting all of those shots at range 4, but I also had some other weird interactions where I wouldn't use it for take that clankers. I just use it for fire support. Just buckets of dice.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, man, that's awesome. How you would even, scouting party the clone commandos, have them use their range 2. Either would you mostly use the scatter gun? I'm assuming on that shot, or would you, and what would you follow up with? Because they probably didn't recover their HQ uplink, and or probably just didn't recover that round, so now they don't have their shield or their HQ uplink. So would you use maybe Rex's 3-pip, or would you maybe use the other 3-pip you had to kind of follow up behind take that clankers?
Well, the thing about Rex's 3-pip is it doesn't give anybody else recovers, it just gives him a recover. But it is nice that literally everybody but one person in my list would get an order that way. Honestly, it's a bit situational. Sometimes you use a 1-pip just to extract that team alive. But chances are, if they were able to pull off a round 1 range 3 grenade launcher shot, there's not a lot left of your opponent, at least on that side of the battlefield. I wasn't using it to just go directly at the middle of my opponent. It would typically be a flanking move. And so whatever was on that side of the battlefield is probably dead, especially because of scatter. That's the best part of the grenade launcher is scatter, because, it's not about reducing heavy cover to light, because, they're going to have a suppression. It's really about just putting those models in a place that they can be seen and shot. And I don't know. It's hard to say what command card I'd follow that up with. Ironically, I almost never used air support over the weekend. I was just too close because of scouting party.
And yeah, I guess you just wanted to get those guys either out or move them back, or kind of just go in more, I'm assuming.
Yeah, just following up. I think I did play a lot of round 2 ambush or round 3 attack of the clones. Either I've nearly killed something that I want to, so I'm going to follow it up with a 1-pip to put it down, or I killed what I wanted, and I'll just play Attack of the Clones, or even We're Not Programmed, and just give out a lot of orders, a lot of aggressive tactics, a lot of surge tokens, and just kind of be like, all right, I've killed something big. The ball's in your court. What's your response?
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. No, I really appreciate the information that you've given us on your winning list from Rocky Top, and the time for the interview, and the comprehensive guide for the clone commandos and kind of how to defeat them, and kind of talk about their strengths here. The fact that you mentioned them in the article, because you kind of have to there in order to tell them what their weaknesses are. But man, this is awesome. Do you have anything else kind of to add to Clone Commandos, or just mention anything that should, I know that you said 3 of them's a trap. Don't really have them with high, expensive heroes, and spend their tokens on offense as much as you can. Is there anything else that words of advice or wisdom that you have?
You just got to be sure when you're up against clone commandos, kill the core. The core is what's going to add dice to fire support. The core is activations that you're taking off the table. It's activations you can take off faster. And, that core has, got the fives, they've got the boil, they've got the medics, they've got the support for the commandos. And you got to cut the support out from under them. And, then the commandos are kind of weak when they're on their own. So that's my opinion on clone commandos. I think they're very balanced. I think they're fine. I think they behave a lot like Pathfinders. They behave a lot like Death Troopers. It's a lot of that recover, shoot, recover, shoot. I think that's a good thing to have. I don't think that, I see a lot of people look at their Katarn pattern armor and say it's so busted, it's crazy, it's ridiculous. But it's a 4 wound unit. If they didn't have Katarn pattern armor, I don't think anybody would run them, because you just kill them far too quick. They don't have that heavy weapon. Everybody is the heavy weapon. So I love the way that they're built. My only grudge with them is that they're in the support slot, and that's the slot I want to fill with Fluttercraft. So I think they're an excellently designed unit.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. I hope everyone goes to check out your guide. I know that it's on the main Discord. If you guys aren't familiar, you can just go to the Legion Discord, go to community content, and check him out. It's a wonderful, wonderful article, and thank you for taking the time to write that, and also for just today, man. I really appreciate it, and I hope people will go and check you out, and I wish you luck on the next tournament you've got.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. All right, guys, y'all take it easy, and I hope that you all have a great rest of your day. And thank you to the Patreon members.